As the demand of AI is growing, simultaneously, the demand of data engineering is also growing. So right now, you can see that data engineering market is around $1.5 billion, but by 2031, it will be around double. It will be around 212.83 billion dollars. So demand is going to increase a lot for the data engineering. So let's see the roadmap for the data engineering. So first one is SQL basics. So two things are very important. SQL and PySpark is very important, and the basics and the core of data engineering. So the first thing is SQL. So first is SQL basics. Here we will have all the basics of the SQL. Another thing will be the joins, all the joins that we'll be using in the SQL. Then the SQL aggregations. What aggregation we are going to use? Like count, sum, average, min, max. If you want to have a group by on some specific column, and then we want to have some aggregations on those columns, we can use the aggregation functions. Again, the next thing is Windows function. So Windows function, what does it do? It gives the ranking to the records. If you want to rank the records and filter it out, we can use the Windows function. Then we can go to advanced SQL, that is common table expression. We can create like a function in the SQL. Subqueries exist, union and union all, except all these things comes in advanced SQL. Also, Windows function also comes in advanced function and asks in lot of interviews. This is very important in aspect of interviews. Another thing is, next thing is PySpark. So PySpark is very important to run the ETL processes. So basically it is required to run the ETL transformations. Here industry wide PySpark is used a lot. It's very important. Then it comes the Spark concept. It comes like what are the architecture, what is driver executors, what is DAX in Spark, so how the lazy evaluation works in Spark, how the shuffling works, how the data shuffling works in Spark. These are important in terms of Spark optimizations. So next thing is partition, adaptive query execution. This is also important in terms of Spark execution, at least. Then then we need a platform, right? The platform to process everything, all the data to store and to process. So the Databricks is very good environment and used industry wise a lot. So Databricks is an environment that we need to learn. So here we have multiple things like workspace. Here we write the code, cluster where our code runs, notebooks where we write our code. So Unity catalog where we store our data. Delta Lake is the type of data type, and SQL warehouse where we have the data jobs where we create our jobs, ETL jobs and workflows. Now the Delta Lake we can have three types, right? Bronze, silver, and gold. That comes in a Matrilian architecture. So we need also to learn Delta Lake. Then Airflow. Airflow is very important and used a lot in the industry for scheduling. This is used as a scheduling tool. So when we created our jobs, right? ETL jobs. So how will we be scheduling it? So we have to, let's suppose the daily data comes or weekly or monthly data comes, right? And we want to schedule the jobs daily, weekly, monthly, or any way according to our requirement. In that case, we use Airflow. Then comes an AWS. AWS is where we can use multiple services like S3 to store the data, IAM roles to update the accesses, EC2 where the machines are present and we can run the data, Glue, Athena, Arena. So all these are data engineering services that we frequently use in AWS. Again, there is Kafka. So let's suppose we have a real-time data that we want to process. So in that case, we use Kafka. So Kafka is very good for real-time data processing. Then it comes data modeling. So data modeling is if we want to create the tables, and for that we need to understand what is star schema, snowflake schema, fact versus dimension tables, SCD types. So these are also required to understand the fundamentals, how we can create the tables and we can design the tables. That is data modeling. Then we can have all the projects. After learning all these concepts, we should create some projects. Here are the example project: ETL pipeline, e-commerce, banking, Netflix, real-time, Kafka, and Delta. And here we have interview prep doc. So comment link if you want, comment roadmap if you want this document in your DM.